All right. This is the semifinals here from the 8th MGM Metagame Masters Berlin. We have Luca on the left side and Fabian on the right side. We have a nice, sweet control matchup coming our way. In Highlander, it's hard to really say control, right? Because there's a lot of different angles each deck is working from.
Yes, it mostly depends on what colors the control decks are based upon. The white and blue based decks, or let's say the non-red control decks are usually slow control decks with very little creatures, a lot of big impact spells, and planeswalkers, while those red-based control decks are usually fast with blood moons and rising waters. Is it rising waters? No, it's not Rising Waters.
Back to basics?
Back to basics. So Rising Waters is a bad card that does not spot on that you tap 2 lands. And those come at you in different angles, while the red decks come with cheap removal and small creatures. But the removal is obviously burn that cannot hit big creatures. The blue, white, or black, or whatever base decks come with broad spectrum removal that cannot hit players. So they work on different angles and in different speeds and different tempos.
And as you can see here, both players chose to play the red side of the force. And Fabian threw away a hand which was really unplayable because of 1 land, but you got the free mulligan. In Highlander, you have the option to just not only play the best cards in all of Magic, you can just take 1 mulligan because you say, those cards are not fun enough. I want other cards of my deck. And Lucas says, deciding to keep. My hand is great. Is it great? Actually, it's a bit interesting because he has some really good interactive spells in form of Clevermancer and Pia, but it's also a little slow and a little unsafe on the mana side. There's no double blue. There's a little bit of non-basic land going on. And as you said, non-basic lands are a bit, the danger playing against a red-blue control deck.
Some Jeskai decks actually play Blood Moon and Back to Basics themselves.
Oh.
So because they need they are built in a way so they need 2 basics, like plains and an island, or 2 islands, and then they're operational.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't care if after the initial setup their non-basics are only mountains. But I don't know if Luca's deck is of that sort. I think it's not from the deck list. It's more of a control and card advantage oriented deck with a possible combo finish.
And Fabian here going down 2-6. Well, even a free mulligan doesn't protect you from some bad hands. We saw 5 lands, Price of Progress, and the Bonfire, not the interaction you're looking for. So the right decision here to go down to 6. But in general, in those control matchups, you have some time, you have some room. It would be much worse to play against a mono red deck and start with a disadvantage. What do you think about some of the interesting cards in Highlander? You see here an Aspirants, another card a lot of people actually can play outside of 100-card decks.
I personally slept on that card pretty hard. Some people told me, yeah, you have to play Ashburns, it's really good. And I was like, well, it doesn't look like it does anything interesting. But I have to admit, I was dead wrong on that one. It's a really, really good card. It doesn't look like it does much, but with the singleton format and with the non-basic hate, and it gives you an out. You can't draw from the top against Blood Moon and stuff, so you can just fetch a basic for a single mana. It instantly gives you mana. It gives colorless mana.
It also it's a bit a comparison to Evolving Wilds, kind of that thing, because it costs you a mana to get the colored source, and then you can go on and play it. It's in your on the battlefield, but you can also play it as your land drop for no cost. If you have it as a last land, you need it on turn 4 to play a Wrath, that's fine. But you can also use it as a mana you didn't use. If you want to use a counter spell, you can counter spell, and if not, then you can use the mana to cycle. If you play Evolving Wilds, that's just a non-mana producing land on the battlefield.
Yeah, it gives you so many options. It's just a great card.
It's very hidden, and I think it will go into a lot of those control decks just by necessity.
Yes.
So we see Lavamancer here, the start from Luca, that will deal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 damage, depending on how the game turns out. But that's a nice passive flow of damage, and later on you can just use the graveyard. Right now we see a Lavamancer from Fabian also, which is a bit awkward because second Lavamancer is not as powerful as the first one.
But considering that Luca held his hand probably because of Pia and especially Dig Through Time, which pulls him or is threatening to pull him ahead in the mid to late stages of the game, he is really reluctant to use his graveyard for anything else than fuel his potent delve spell.
Yeah, which Fabian doesn't know. So Luca says, okay, I have a Lavamancer. I kind of really don't want to use it because I have delve spells, but on Fabian's side, it looks like, my opponent has a Lavamancer. I cannot play my creatures because they instantly die.
Yes,
so,
that's true. The hidden information part is really crucial here.
And luckily for Fabian, we know that the hidden information part will soon be over because of the detecting probe. And then it's going to be a very interesting game because True Nemesis on the one side is a nice threat that cannot be dealt with right now. But on the other side, Pia and Kianala is such a broad threat that has to be answered with at least 1 or 2 cards.
Yes.
So
it does, yes. It's an interesting card. I thought it would not take off in Highlander. I thought it wasn't powerful enough at the start, but it actually is a really good card. It does its job really well, and especially in Luca's deck with that also has Splinter Twin and Gigi Jiki, you can abuse it.
Oh yeah, you can make some nice tokens.
So even if he doesn't have the combo, he can pull advantages out of his token making possibilities.
Yeah, that's some smart deck building because you're playing 100 cards. It's not that reasonable to rely on the combo as you can do in Modern, for example, if it would be legal. But then playing a lot of cards that work well with them also, like Pia and Candelar, gives you much more possibility to use the cards effectively. And that's great.
Yes. In Highlander, the combo potential is not as good as in Standard because, as you said, you cannot cram your deck full with 4-offs.
Yeah.
So you need smart deck building, you need to make good choices, and you need to put in sort of fail safes or smaller interactions instead of combos to not have useless parts lying around in your hand. There are some decks that can do it, that are heavy control combo decks that just bide their time to finish off in 1 turn. But with Luca's deck, it's more of an engine he can turn on in different stages of power. He can his combo can finish the game, or he can just try to create an insurmountable advantage.
And other cards that the Splinter Twin looks really good on, you can have a Venser that bounces a permanent all the time.
Yes.
You can have a Thraben Inspector, and that sounds a bit awkward. Why would you put it on a 1-drop? But Thraben Inspector is such a good card to produce constant amounts of cards. And even if it gets killed, I mean, your Thraben Inspector got killed. That's not a big deal. It probably made a clue that, so it's not even a bad trade for that matter. You have some interesting cards like Snapcaster Mage. It's very, very cool to see those cards interact well. And in Highlander, it's such a good thing that a lot of cards interact well because there's a lot of different combinations you draw the cards in. So
yeah,
right now,
Highlander in general, Highlander is a great format to help you think out of the box, to make you to sensible to how's it called, get you a feeling for plays that are not as obvious but could be better or could be good, to play around things that you don't expect.
Yeah.
You cannot know what the opponent has in his hand.
Yeah.
You cannot know which single cards he has that could wreck you, and you have to think a lot about it. So I think it looks like, for some people, it looks like a casual format, but it is absolutely not.
So now we
It
see
obviously is too, but no, it's not. But it has, the competitive aspect is really great.
Yeah, and it needs different attention than other formats.
Yes.
We see the end of turn brainstorm, which is from every single points of playing a brainstorm my worst liked, because you just randomly draw the card again, especially if you don't have any form of shuffling, which unfortunately is not there. We see Jace going back to the deck, and yeah, right now it doesn't look really great for Fabian. All of the angles are kind of cut through. Like the Nemesis is okay, but it doesn't really do much. The Magus of the Moon, we see Lucas is well protected from in form of 2 islands. He doesn't have a white mana, but he doesn't really need it right now. There's a Lava Man, so it cannot be played. We see him here. Instead of playing the True Nemesis, he goes for the Sleight of Hand, which
really interesting decision.
Yeah, he could have. Yeah, he brainstormed to the top right, and he just didn't want to draw the Mind Sculptor again, which is very understandable because the Mind Sculptor just dies to either counter spells, and there's also a certain thing you have to go for the mana cost, right? If you play a Jace on turn 4 and your opponent counterspells it, you just lost so much tempo.
Yes, I think it's a really smart and not intuitive play he did there. It's I don't know. I probably would have missed that opportunity to get rid of a bad draw, just trying to get the Nemesis down.
Yeah, and he also like there was a bit of a temptation because he knew that the Nemesis is probably going to resolve, and he also knows that a lot of the cards can be handled easily with the spells like Electrolyze and Fire Ice. You see, Pia and Kirnala makes tokens, but Fabian is actually well equipped for those. Actually, Luca drew the Caracas, which is such a nice interaction with Pia and Kirnala.
Yeah,
but
it's too late.
Yeah, just waiting a turn would be just really awkward. And here we see Fire and Ice getting rid of it.
Usually going wide against those blue-red decks is good, but Fabian has it all: the Fire and Ice, the Electrolyze, and now even draws the Forked Bolt.
So he is still a bit, restricted on mana. You see him here, one spell, but he gets rid of the Lavamancer, and that was one of the highest priorities because now he can play his own Lavamancer, and those tend to be really good. There's a lot of creatures that don't survive the Lavamancer.
Yes, with all the utility creatures Luca is playing, he has a lot of low toughness creatures.
Ooh, Wasteland hits the Maze of Ith, and now there's so many cards in the graveyard that one of those Delve spells can be cast and probably even fuels the others. It looks really good for Lucas. He has some nice card advantage cards. He has all the mana he needs. His deck, I think, has a better late game potential.
Yeah, with the threat of a combo, it could always be over fast. And now he's replenishing his hand. He threatens to just pull ahead into a game state where Fabian's hand with those small creatures and not really threatening answers or narrow answers could be too weak.
That was a perfect draw. He gets the Ponder. It looks for more cards with the cards in the deck, and he also do the Council's Judgment for the True Name Nemesis. That was about the only thing right now Fabian has going for him. Ooh, and there's some options. So far, Grandmaster is a cool card, especially in combination with the Delve card. Sweet. We also see Thought Scour, which is a good combination with the Delve cards. It's like you build your deck with some ideas in mind. So he draws and doesn't shuffle. Goes for a Thought Scour. Okay. Back to Fabian. And he draws a land. That's good. That gives him the options to play at least 2 spells now. He can go for Magus of the Moon, which seems kind of okay. At least shuts down the white mana.
Yes.
But the
He
True
doesn't
Nemesis,
know. He doesn't know about Lucas Plains in hand.
the
So
True Nemesis comes into the battlefield and is probably getting the right judgment soon.
yes. Sometimes if you knew what your opponent has in hand, you would play differently. Here it would have been better to play the Magus and then the Nemesis, but I guess there's just one answer in Lucas' deck, which is the Council's Judgment, so he has to try it, and it's unfortunate that Luca just drew it last turn.
From a personal experience, they always have it.
Yes. Your own Nemesis never stays for long, and there's always this unendable that kills you.
To be fair, I guess Fabian has a much tougher time of handling a Nemesis. And I'm not even sure if there's any card in the deck that does it.
Yes, he probably has to counter opposing Nemesis.
It's an interesting thing because Nemesis, every blue deck plays a Nemesis, right?
Yes.
That seems about right. And playing a deck that is almost conceding the long game if your opponent plays that is quite interesting. It speaks to the power of the deck in general. Like the deck just basically says I can do much more than 3 damage each turn. Oh, Luca didn't want to have the Soulfire Grandmaster. That's interesting. I would have thought that this is kind of a neat thing to play, especially if you have a lot of mana, and you can expect the game to go quite long, at least.
I don't know what he's digging for in particular, but what he needs now is something to put on the board.
Yeah, we see Council's Judgment. That resolves, yes. Maybe the Lava Mets. Too bad. And Luca did get in quite some damage. Fabian is already at 12. Without much happening, the cards are about equal, more or less. But Fabian already took 8 damage. We saw Wasted here. That's just not much in his hand. The only hope he has is that the negate kind of takes away the most important spell. It's actually pretty interesting. If the Dig Through Time gets countered, there's not much left in Luca's hand.
No, it's just things that get killed by Lava Monster. Now he's on a single white mana.
Yeah, there's the Magus of the Moon, which shuts down any lands that would do something. Also takes away double white, which is, somewhat important. We saw Council's Judgment is a card. There's probably some other cards that cost double white. But Luca needs to draw something, not soonish, but at least eventually. Yeah, as we said, Colonnade would be a land that would be great. A great threat, considering there wouldn't be a wasteland, but that also is just a mountain, and even a horrible mountain, which comes into play tap.
Yes.
And if you're now, do you go now for the Dig Through Time? Hoping my opponent has only 1 blue, there's not many counter spells that can hit it?
Yeah, I guess with Fabian having a good board, I probably would try it because your hand does basically nothing right now.
Yeah, this needs to be countered, yeah.
Yes,
good decision.
There's only negate that can get him at this point. There's Mana Leak cannot get him. What versus is that it only costs 1 blue and colorless.
I know that I like the card in the deck that was Disdainful Stroke, which counters a spell that costs 4 or more.
Yes, that's true. I never played that kinda because so many decks build on efficient local spells.
Yeah, that's probably just not a good card. There's much better.
I think he had to fight off there. There's only like one or two cards that can get him here, and Fabian just had it.
Oh, and there's another creature land here. That's so unfortunate.
Yeah, earlier I said that Luca would be threatening to pull ahead with his card advantage, and now he has more cards. He has twice the hand size of Fabian, but it's all doing pretty much nothing.
Yeah, the way it fell, everything is handled quite easily. The Lavamancer gets rid of the creatures, and Magus of the Moon gets rid of the lands. And this is slowly getting really dangerous. We see Fabian also drawing a lot of empty cards. Forkbolt is not the thing you want, although, I mean, if it goes on for 1 or 2 turns, then it could be dangerous. Oh, that's a road blocker. Hello. Now, it's hard to see how many cards are in the graveyard, but there seem to be at least 8. So Lavamancer does a lot of damage, and I don't think Luca is in the position to attack with the Nemesis.
Yeah, he has to keep it back. He threatened. His life total is not looking too low, but you should not underestimate the burn potential those blue-red control decks have.
Yeah.
All the removal is burn, and most of it goes to the dome as well.
And that's also one of the neat advantages of this deck, right? It just plays more of those.
It has surprising amount of reach in the late game.
Yeah.
You can stabilize on 8 or 10 mana, and then you get hit by 3 burn spells or by the price of progress, and you're just dead. Out of nowhere, or it felt like nowhere.
Mensa is also kind of a cool card here, although it doesn't really change the situation. Ooh, that's an interesting card. Eldrazi Displacer. That's not a card I would expect in the deck.
Probably it makes Ash Burns even better because it produces the colorless mana he needs.
Oh wow, yeah, that is true.
He only has, I think, we checked the deck list. He only has 4, I think, sources of colorless mana. But with all his token producers, with his comes into play abilities, it's a really smart choice. It is interesting. It fits really well into his deck, and it's just a good body in the end.
I found he also plays a Mystic Gate, which is
right, yeah.
and a Rugged Prairie. That's
so it's even 6.
That's the lands that can change the mana into 2-colored mana. So I think the smart concept here is, even though there's not much accessibility in most of the games, the card itself is just a creature, and if it connects, imagine you can blink a Pia Kirnalar, you can blink a Snapcaster, like all those cards that would be also good with the twin action. You can blink a Pestormite and tap creatures or untap stuff. It's a really, really interesting thing.
Yeah, it's like a mini, a smaller Kiki-Jiki on a stick.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't have the combo potential, but
exactly. Usually it does nothing.
Yeah,
and the creature comes back tapped. The blink
exactly. So you can blink your opponent's creatures so they can attack. You can also remove tokens.
Yeah, it's a powerful card, and it's an interesting choice in deck building, and he obviously his mana base does support it to some extent.
Ooh, you know what it also does? If you have a Kitchen Finks that already died, it just brings it back.
Yeah, of course.
That is so good. All right. Unfortunately,
there's so many angles. The more you think about that card, the more it does.
Unfortunately, it doesn't have Lucas a single bit. Because Fabian just drew the Jace again. It's like, oh, friend, I don't need you. And then Jace said, no, please, I want to be in this game. It's like, okay.
Yeah, he sent him back when he didn't need him, and he came back when the time was right.
And now we see Ruination, another super strong hoser. It would destroy all of Lucas' non-basic lands, leaving him with
like 3 lands. So. And this game changed a lot during the mid-game turns. Fabian pulled back, and Luca drew just too many blanks, too many cards out, just blanked by the Magus.
Yeah, exactly. And you have to just say it was some very nice sequencing from Fabian's point of view. Like starting with the True Name Nemesis. If he would have played that, there would have probably a lot of tempo going in Luca's way, and it would have been much harder to stay on the defense. Some nice card selection. That was really well
Putting away
played.
the chase was just the perfect decision at that point, because it really did nothing. It was a useless card for the first like 10 turns or more in his hand, but he took off a turn from developing his board or doing anything to sculpt his hand because he wasn't under too much pressure. Was a good decision in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's game, boys. 1-0 for Fabian. Okay, let's see who's winning the second game in the semifinals here.